All right. Correct. Last time I Ringe's audio was still going through the intro.
Oh,
Yeah. Or at least that's what I remember. I just saw like the Equinox logo and then I was listening, I was like, oh, they're still doing audio checks. Just give you a
yeah,
heads up on that one. That's all.
yeah. No, yeah. So, did you end up watching any of Cuddle Core last night? I saw you raided the group, but
I watched a little bit, but I had to leave.
ah,
I had to leave the house.
no
But it
worries.
was pretty
It
cool.
was it was crazy.
Everybody was playing Fakum Rum, right?
No, there was no Falcon.
Really?
Not that I saw, at least.
Interesting. He's mad good. I'm watching all this stuff on like Twitter. Um, I'm watching Saint put a bunch of tech on him, and just like people in general picking up the character and really having fun with him.
Right? Yeah. No, he seems okay. I tried him out, and he seems sick, but I'm not very good, so I don't know exactly what all tools he has compared to one of the more full-time players, professional players.
That's fair. Yeah,
But
there's no way I can pick up Tekken, man. 3D. I'm so like 2D oriented that I can't figure it out. The only time I'm in a 3D space is when it's like a first person shooter or something, and that's like all I know really.
that's so much
But
different. Like Tekken is just so much different than any other 3D space game.
yeah, oh, 100%. There's so much more you need to be aware of too, and just like, man, I'm sure you've taken a gander at their command list. That
Oh
thing
yeah,
is ridiculous.
there's so many moves. Every single character, there's so many moves. I can't remember them.
I really can't. But it's funny though because they, majority of the Tekken players I ask when it comes to like learning Tekken, they would say learn the first or learn the top 10 moves, the top 10 like most useful moves of a character and just work on that. Don't even worry about the rest of the commands. Just do that. Learn what your character's supposed to do with those 10 moves. And I'm like, how do I figure that out? And then they would just direct me to a website that tells me what these top 10 moves are. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, if this is like general consensus and these are the top 10 moves, then I'll start from there, I guess.
No, yeah, like I was just trying to figure out like my jabs and then the best combo, and that's about it. Because I don't know enough to go past that. At least not at my skill level right now.
I feel you.
I can never focus on one game at a time long enough either. I always get distracted. Like I've been
Mhm.
playing Tekken for a little bit and like, oh, I'll play Guilty Gear now for a few more weeks. And then, oh, I'll play Power Rangers now for a little bit.
Man, Power Rangers is such a cool game.
Isn't it?
It's such a cool damn game.
Okay.
It's hard.
It's super fun and like you should actually play the story mode if you get a chance to.
I'm
So
about it.
the story mode actually pulls from the comic storyline, and they
Okay.
got the comic artist to do like art direction and stuff in the game.
No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty beast.
Plus some of the original Ranger actors and stuff did voice acting for the game.
Oh, no way. You
Yeah.
mean like there's only one I'm really thinking about.
Like Jason David Frank, who did the Green
Damn
Ranger.
right.
Yeah.
Damn right. Awesome.
Well, because he voices Tommy and Evil Tommy, so he's in it twice.
As a cheater.
Tommy is
Lord
overpowered.
Lord Dracon, right?
Yeah.
Or is it Dracon? I can't tell.
I think it's
Uh,
Draken, but I'm not 100% sure.
I just I ended up so I ended up reading up on the lore about it. Because it was just so interesting to me. Like, why did he turn evil? Like or alternate timeline Tommy. And I realized, oh, there there could have been a moment where the Power Rangers didn't actually like save him from grace after all the things he's done to Angel Grove.
Well, yeah,
That's pretty
that's
cool.
that's basically exactly what happens. I have
Yeah.
all of the comics in my desk, right?
Oh
They're
damn.
like right below me, just sitting in my desk drawer.
What in the world? That's tight. I know you're a
Also,
big like Power Rangers.
oh, well, yeah, because I did some or still do some contracting stuff for Enway, who made Battle for the Grid, but I do stuff for their mobile game.
Oh, sick!
Yeah,
Hell
yeah,
yeah!
it's super cool. The mobile game has like 80 something characters in it now, like all the different
Mm.
Power Ranger stuff. And then they did that Street Fighter collab.
That's right. Yeah, they gave the Power Ranger suits to Chun-Li and Ryu, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then there's
And
some
then
just normal Street Fighter characters in it.
mm,
It's super
that's pretty
cool.
sick. I know they just released Adam Park not too long ago, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's busted.
Bruh,
He's mad
I was
busted.
watching his moves. Yo, he's actually a ninja. Like he
Yeah.
teleports, like ninja style teleports. That shit is sick.
No, he's
Yes.
like top tier, like super top tier.
Word. Okay. Very cool. Yo, I forget that Halmaru's gonna be in Soul Calibur. I think he's out already. What the hell?
Is he?
I
I
think
remember
'cause
seeing something, but I haven't checked up on Soul Calibur in a little bit.
bruh, he looks so sick. It's as if like I'm watching the Max Reacts trailer. Oh, maybe he's not out. It's just a launch trailer.
Oh,
A launch trailer, excuse me. But yo, watching Halmaru move in a 3D space is sick. Super sick. Oh, can I cuss on this podcast?
sure.
Okay. I won't be like, obviously.
No.
Damn, this guy's going crazy.
Right. We're not recording yet either, so.
Ah, okay.
But
Because people are definitely. I'm not
no,
saying.
no,
obscene,
it's all
I
good.
swear.
It's a podcast. If people don't like the language, they can turn it off.
Damn, let him know. I don't know how you really feel.
All right. You ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. Let me switch the scene quick. Boom. All right.
Hell yeah. I see it.
Let's go. Yeah.
It works.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of the EQNX Podcast. I'm here with our guest, Vicious. Vicious, why don't you tell the people that maybe don't know who you are a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Jeremy Lopez. I go by the handle Vicious, and I'm about to sneeze, but I'm really trying to hold it back. My allergies have been killing me all day today. I'm not sick. It's just allergies. I do commentary for the fighting game community for 2 games right now: Street Fighter V mainly, and Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. I am also involved with a lot of other projects for esports. I host a monthly Shadowverse show for side games, as well as Temple Storm. And these last couple of years, I've also hosted events for Red Bull's esports division. They've had numerous like tournament circuits for fighting games as well. So I do hosting work for that. So other than like the professional side of things, I'm just another dude who likes to play games, and it's the best time to play games, especially right now with all the quarantine stuff going on. So that's me in a nutshell, essentially. But of course, we have plenty more questions to really unravel the mystery that is the bald brain, right? That's what I've been calling myself lately because it's Tasty Steve.
I love it, honestly. I love it. So it is definitely a great time to play games right now, especially with everything that's coming out. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in specifically fighting games, and then later on how you got into commentary?
Oh, with fighting games, it was it just happened naturally. My first ever fighting game when I was a kid was from the Super Nintendo. I had Street Fighter 2. My brother and I would play that a good amount. I guess that's where my competitive drive came from as well, because he would beat me to no man's land every single time. Fast forward, high school, I got into Third Strike because of Evo Moment 37. Instead of doing my homework in one of my computer classes, I would look up stuff on YouTube. I would watch the greats from SoCal, like Pyro Lee, play like Yun. Eventually, I dabbled on watching high level play, Super Battle Opera or Togeki, watching the Family Fun Arcade Ranbats also. And it was just like, yo, I want to play like these guys, like that was like my first time. I was like, oh, I I want to be good enough to compete in Japan. That's where like it really sparked initially. But of course, in that era, it was like what Third Strike, CDS2, Marvel 2. So I dabbled in all games, but I was still too young to like compete because I couldn't drive at that time. Fast forward again, a lot of fast forwarding today. 2009, Street Fighter 4 came out, and I was like, yo, this is actually the moment for my dreams to come true, to actually try and compete in Japan for like Super Battle Opera or just compete in general, like at Evo. So I did that for a very, very long time. And that just stuck with me. I tried to be a pro as much as possible, but the talent pool was so concentrated in Street Fighter 4. There were so many killers in that game. And eventually, like when it came to the later years of Street Fighter 4, I started dabbling in TOing. And that's when I started getting into commentary as well, because I worked at a place called Ultimate Gaming Center. They were a brand new like gaming place. They were in need of people to help run the shop, and they were looking for people who knew how to run tournaments for any game, really. But I told them, it's like, hey, I can do pretty much any game you want me to, but I can also do fighting games primarily and attract a bunch of people by advertising. And so I did. And with that, I'd had to like run the tournament, run the stream, run the shop as an employee, and also try to compete on certain days. So that's actually where I started doing commentary, right? I actually sat down at the desk and would wait for certain matches when I can, because no one would want to get on the mic. And I guess that's where I got like a knack for talking about some of the matches. I've only done it like, I know Wednesday Night Fights was the place to be. I've only done that like a handful of times. I still remember one of my biggest failures in commentary was with Air for Street Fighter 4. I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. And we were just like filling in for like matches as people were queuing up or whatever. And then Mondo, the stream head at the time, the guy organizing the whole thing, he was like, all right, I'm gonna run an ad, but I didn't hear him. And then Eris is like, all right, amigo, I'm gonna let you take this one. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. And they just played the ad, like the slide, and I was just sitting there. And Eris like, all right, you failed, get out of here. You really blew that one, amigo. I was like,
oh no.
Yeah, it wasn't like big. It was just like Wednesday Night Fights, right? But at the
Right.
same time, it was like, thanks, Eris. I'm gonna go back to playing now. But the real transition from trying to become a pro into commentary was when Street Fighter 5 came out. At that time, what it was like 2016 of February, I graduated in 2015, got a full-time job, and there was no way in hell I was going to be practicing 8 hours a day. But I still like talking about Street Fighter. I obviously found a knack for it with Street Fighter 4. I understood the mechanics way better than I used to, and I felt comfortable about talking about it. And it's always fun to talk to players in your area about a brand new Street Fighter, right? Like trying to come up with like the coolest tech, trying to see which character is broken, and just talking about like theory crafting matchups. That's like the best part. It's the honeymoon phase of a fighting game. And I just liked doing it a lot. And at the time, I moved down to further Southern California towards like the beach, like Laguna Hill, while I was working. And the only person I actually hung out with was Sajam. So I think at this point, Sajam is another well-known fighting game commentator. I think one of the most prolific ones, if I do say so myself, really changing the game up for commentary. He was the only person I got to hang out with in Orange County. And it was like we played a lot of games, and eventually he kind of talked me into doing commentary, really. Like I would dabble in it a little bit. He's like, dude, why don't you just do that more often? Why don't you stop being a bitch and like get on the mics? We talk to each other like that, right?
No, yeah, I mean that's friendly banter.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how it started. I would take notes from how he would do commentary. I would take notes from other people like Tasty Steve as well. Tasty Steve been my boy since my 21st birthday. Really, Ultra David's a good friend of mine as well, and James Chen. Those four were the ones that really put me onto commentary at this point, and have given me so much advice over the years, and has led me to where I'm at now. Honestly, being able to take that skill set of public talking or public speaking and moving it over to like hosting work, even getting on this podcast and not sounding like a complete idiot. So I at least know how to formulate some sentences pretty well and at least get from point A to point B.
Hey man, that's good. I think right now we're all kind of going crazy inside. So
Oh yeah.
stringing words
and
together in a
outside.
sentence is oh yeah. So one thing that you said I think is so important to the esports culture, how you said like, oh, I want to play these top players. I want to be good enough to challenge them. And I think that's
Mhm.
something that really draws a lot of people to esports because anyone can hit that top level if they're willing to put in the amount of time and effort to practice and get better. That
Mhm.
doesn't really happen in normal sports. In normal sports,
Right.
you probably need like natural height or natural athleticism or some other
Oh.
form of natural advantage over other people. Whereas esports, you can literally be anybody and make it up to that top level of competition.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no physical limitations or like disadvantages when it comes to playing esports. I feel like I would say I wouldn't necessarily say it that way. I think the barrier to entry is significantly lower. That's what I'm going to say. These barrier to entry for playing certain games is have like working hardware, I guess, is the best thing, and maybe decent internet to some extent. But nowadays, certain net code is better than some are better than, but that's a conversation for a different um yeah, you think about like sports, there's it's tough to break out into the professional world of sports, really, no matter what it is. You could work so hard and never make it to the big leagues also because of certain limitations. Um unless your work ethic is through the roof, but even then there's still a significant chance that you're not going to make it if you're not a certain stature, height, build, So it kind of sucks, but the beauty about esports is that, again, you mentioned it earlier, anybody can do it, so long as you like put your mind to it. Anybody can be a professional, and there's just so many resources nowadays when it comes to like the transition of esports and the amount of pro players and just players in general. I feel like it's getting larger and larger exponentially because there's so much more to look up when it comes to doing the research and figuring out how to become a pro player. It's definitely evident when it comes to fighting games as well. There's so many more players out there that are up and coming stars and are doing really well for themselves in the pro tours because there's so much footage out there to study from, even if it's not like historical matches from Street Fighter 4, learning footsies and fundamentals of Street Fighter, blah blah blah. You could find matches from for example, Street Fighter. You could find matches on CFN from players internationally and see what the top players are doing and study that footage for almost free 99, right? Even more so, like say League of Legends, right? League of Legends actually free to play. You could study how maybe like Faker plays or Double Lift plays in different lanes just by sitting there studying and taking notes. Like that's pretty good. That's the amount of resources is astounding when it comes to how it was back then and what it is till now. Like when you would try to find any sort of tips on how to play certain games, you would have to go to like their respective forum, really dabble, and there's tons of toxicity in that. Trust me, I know I'm sounding like a boomer, but yeah, it's there's just an abundance of resources now that there's really no excuses on trying to get good. It's all up to the person's individual willpower now. So I think that's what's super great about esports is that the barrier of entry is just so low.
Right, and that's something I'm unfortunately not old enough to have been able to play during the arcade days, but you hear so many people talk about how each different location had a different meta for each game. Like SoCal had a different meta than NorCal, and the East
Mhm,
Coast had a different meta because they couldn't interact. Nowadays, through the
mhm.
internet and through tournaments that happen all over the world, that is much more condensed and because people are interacting so much. I think it's really interesting how much better players are because they're able to have that worldwide connection.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're just really expanding your the challenge pool, I guess, the talent pool, by being able to play across different regions with different play styles. I know that was very much so evident in Street Fighter 4, where West Coast was dominated by Balrogs. Um, East Coast had like Rufus with Justin, or like Shotos and Rufus with Justin, and guys like Sanford. A lot of people playing Shotos. Actually, damn, the East Coast was so diverse back then. They were so good. They were so damn good. But yeah, that was just a small example how West Coast was like RTSD, rush that stuff down style with like ball for the most part. But yeah, man, it's gotten way better nowadays. You get to play pretty much anywhere or anyone from anywhere for most games.
For most games.
I say that with an asterisk. So if this goes on YouTube, put the big asterisk on my head. For most games.
For most games. So, for your most games, you said you are right now focusing on Gray and Blue and Street Fighter V.
Mhm.
How do you usually go about determining which games you want to focus on for commentary, and just how you want to prioritize your time?
I like that question a lot. Personally, I don't chase the jobs that pay like the most or what's super popular. I just got lucky with like Street Fighter because I happen to really enjoy Street Fighter to the fullest. I love the lore behind it. Essentially, what I'm getting at is if I don't enjoy the game on a personal level, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to work for it. But with that said as well, I give a significant amount of chances to certain games uh, until I reach a breaking point of saying, I don't have fun with this game. I don't even enjoy watching it too much, so I'm gonna. But it's a small margin when it comes to like not liking the game like as on a playing level, and then not enjoying it on like in watching it, because man, fighting games are just so fun to watch in general. Now that I understand, like I have a mind towards what's going on in certain fights, it's really cool to see like high level play for every fighting game. So that's kind of tough. But other games, like if I were to try to dabble in like CS:GO or something, like sure I like watching it, but I can't watch it for too long. But yeah, I don't really like it too much. I tried playing it a couple times, and it's mad hard. I just suck. But it's just a small example. Like if I just don't enjoy the game too much, I'm not gonna fake it. I'm really not. So that's pretty much my criteria. Is like if I really enjoy the game, I like how it plays, and I'm really interested in it, I'm gonna give it a shot, and we'll see where it goes from there if I want to commentate it or not.
Right, and I think that's something that fighting games as a community really benefits from, is there's so many great fighting games out there that players and commentators can really pick and choose the games that really fit their style and what they enjoy. People aren't
Mhm,
really forced into one specific game in
mhm.
order to hit that top level. So,
Yeah.
um, when you do choose a game, how do you usually go about hitting that next commentary level, like actually digging into it and understanding the more specific interactions and character matchups and all that kind of stuff that's important to break down on stream?
What I usually do on stream, um, so I stream on a daily basis. I stream fighting games a lot. I actually what I like doing is when a new game comes out, instead of just playing it just to play it, like enjoying the content of whatever is provided, like arcade mode, I go straight into the lab. I want to break down every single um, what their moves are like, what their special moves are. Try to find the data on it as much as possible. And by data, I mean frame data, the numbers behind it, essentially, where I would understand or I would look up how fast a move would be, what properties it has, figure out its priority, and that really determines if it's a good or bad move. Then I formulate a game plan around those moves that they have. And what I usually do when I break it down is um, I sit there for a while, and it's very mundane, but I show the process of just pressing a button a couple times and seeing whether or not um, I can get away with a lot of things with it. Like if I can hit somebody and not get hit back. Um, if there's certain moves that beat out other moves in terms of like having invincible properties or something. Just figuring out the little nuances of a character and seeing their general game plan. I think um, that's usually how I do it. Honestly, that's like the best way to get started. Honestly, some people they learn differently. For me, that's how I break down characters. It's just like I don't want to just go into arcade mode or versus mode and just start trying to like beat up people and just press buttons. I would think that would work, because that only builds bad habits for me. And it's like it'll get this kind of I take mental notes. It's like, all right, well, if I were playing this character, I don't know what he's doing. I see something that doesn't work. In my mind, I'll be like, okay, that doesn't work in certain scenarios. When I could be completely wrong because I just don't understand the properties. So I learned from my mistakes. I used to do that back then. I learned from it where I would make sure I sit in the lab and test the results over and over and over again and see what other avenues there are in terms of like, hey, is there any way this statement is wrong? Is there any way this theory could be proven differently or like proven or shown a different way, right? So breaking down the characters is something I really want to do first when it comes to even talking about it on commentary, because if you don't understand the character, you don't understand the mechanics, you're not going to be able to relay the information given at any level, really. If you're not understanding the basic mechanics, you're not going to be able to be the mediator between what's going on in the gameplay and how to translate that to the folks watching at home that aren't necessarily fully well versed. They're trying to learn from you and the gameplay. So yeah, you're a very important medium to understanding what's going on in the game and how it's interpreted to the folks at home.
Right, and I actually sat in a lot of your frame data streams when you were learning Granblue because I find that stuff very interesting. That's how my brain works. I like the numbers and knowing like this will beat this in this situation. But there are a lot of people who don't have the brain for that. They don't want to sit and memorize frame data. They don't want to sit and memorize how each interaction is going to play out. How do you go about coming up with ways to have that information be portrayed in a way that's digestible for people that maybe aren't as interested in that
I'm glad
hard
you asked
numbers?
That. So there is a handful of people. When I was actually streaming the frame data stuff for Granblue, the viewership wasn't as high. I had people asking questions, and those are like the diehard players too. What's good about that? It's better to get rid of that early, that phase of the game early, so that you have a solid foundation of how you want to explain things to the people at home, right? So after that, what would happen is I take the knowledge I had from the training room and apply it to the real world. Apply it, or I guess to the ranked world, I would say. I would apply it to gameplay and certain matchups, right? That's when I could be like, oh, okay, so I figured this out. Let me show you how it actually looks like, what the actual game plan is in actual battle. So again, it's the foundation to being able to talk about what you need to talk about for a character. So if people don't like seeing the numbers, they'll definitely like seeing the action because that's what they're there for in the first place. They want to see how it works out. And then you'll get those surprises where like, you'll get those people in chat when you hit something sick, right? Like a big ass combo, especially with like someone like Vasaraga and Granblue. They'll be like, yo, that works. I didn't know you could do a low medium and then cancel into the stomps and it'll connect for big damage. It's like, yeah, because if you looked at it in the training lab, what I was doing is there's enough time for you to cancel in that window to get the stomps to connect. So if they don't like the frame data stuff, I just make sure that I know how to explain it thoroughly when it comes to the in life or the in-game situations easier for them. So it's like it's a means to an end, really. Even if it's very boring, it has to be done because say if I figure that out via like a video clip and I just started practicing it without really understanding it, I wouldn't know what to say. If somebody were to ask me, "Yo, that combo was super sick. How did you know that worked?" I don't know. I just saw it on a YouTube video and I just copied it. Like that doesn't help anybody. I don't know. That's how I feel about it, at least.
No, yeah, I definitely think that's personally I think that's a good way to go about it because if we had commentators sitting on the desk saying, I mean, I saw it on Twitter, so it must work, then no one would be able to trust them. They'd just sit there and be like, well, the commentators don't know what's going on, so how am I going to figure out the game? And with how popular the tournament streams have been getting, we definitely need that helpful layer to get people that maybe don't play fighting games currently to kind of help guide them into it.
Mhm. And it's
So,
okay for stuff like that to happen, by the way. If you saw it on Twitter, you're like, oh, I mean, I guess that works. But also, the best part about that is being able to theorize the possibilities as to what led to that scenario. I think that's also very important. Like, there was one thing I saw about Guile for Street Fighter V using his critical art, and an Akuma player was able to react and teleport behind the Guile player, but still get hit, right? If you didn't understand the mechanics of Street Fighter V, you would just say something like, "Oh, I saw it on Twitter. I guess it just works now," and that wouldn't really leave much. But if you understood the fundamentals, or like if you understood the mechanics of the game and paid attention to the patch notes, you would be like, "Huh, I didn't know that happened. I saw it on Twitter once, but now I get it. I think what happened was," and then start to theorize with your co-commentator, start putting ideas out there to kind of spark the interest of the players. Like, "Huh, I never thought of it that way. Why did that happen? Maybe I could find some other exploits with other characters just like this." Then they would start doing critical arts with other characters and seeing which ones hit behind them or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay to actually have that instance happen where you see it on Twitter and be like, "Huh, I didn't know that could happen. Let's kind of pause, take a look again at what happened, and try to break down to the folks at home what's really going on in these certain niche scenarios."
right. Yeah, I think really breaking it down, the more you understand the game, the easier it is to explain it.
Mhm.
It's kind of that thing where like I've heard that when you teach someone something, you help understand it better yourself.
Mhm.
And I can see how that can be really beneficial to commentators, especially like when they're streaming different games.
Mhm.
So I think there's another side to like commentating and kind of being in front of the audience on stream that people don't think about as much just because of how much time we spend focused on the actual matches, and
Mhm.
that's hosting. So
Okay.
you've done some hosting work as well. Could you kind of talk about how
Yes.
that differs from the normal commentary desk?
Well, for the hosting gigs that I've been doing for Red Bull and the Shadowverse shows, uh, on paper, it's the guy that's carrying the conversation. It's taking the commentators and or casters through topics at a time, transitioning the show. That's what it's like on paper. But what I do actually is there are certain instances where I have to um, talk about certain games that I might not understand, or just get the audience involved, and also get my job also becomes like an interviewer essentially, where I also have to ask questions for folks that are watching it, like as a spectator, like what they would want to know about like the player given the scenario, right? So I mean, from hosting, it's very similar skill sets in terms of being able to understand the situation, and then figuring out what questions do I want to ask if I were learning the game and or just a spectator. Also trying to bring out the hype value in that, like trying to figure out what's gonna get a reaction out of both the players and the crowd too. So um, when it comes to hosting, I like to ask very general, like broad questions when it comes to like the games, but then when it comes to like the players and interviews, I make sure to do my research beforehand, obviously, about the game, the scenario that they're in, what the stakes are. So that kind of differs from like commentary, right? You're studying the game so much, and you do study the players as well, but you're not really asking those kind of questions with those players. Hosting is more like person to person, whether it's you with the casters or you with the audience, more so than the you with the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think definitely makes sense in the fact that like you still need to be able to make that connection when you're
Mhm.
talking between what's happening and the other people that are involved.
Mhm.
So when you are hosting and maybe you get put and you have to talk with someone that you don't know as much about or you're unfamiliar with, how do you
Mhm.
try to fill that knowledge gap so it doesn't really come across? If that
Well,
makes
if
sense.
it was, if there were ever a time which has happened where I got put on the spot about a player, well, Here's the cheating answer. Here's the cheating answer. In every production that I've been on, there's always significant time to prep. Like, hey, you have to interview this out of nowhere. That's happened a few times because there's so many moving pieces to a show that there might not be time to radio in and be like, hey, we need Vicious to do an interview real quick or whatever. Or they'll do like an on the spot decision. And if it comes to that, I'll at least, dude, I kid you not, I'll pull the guy aside and be like, hey, what game do you? And then I just need that really. I'll get their name, what game they play, then I'll just go right into it. What I ask is very like certain questions where I would say, hey, this is so and so. Give us like a small introduction of yourself. So you're playing this. You're getting ready to play in your pools or something. Or you're getting ready to play in this round. What are some of the challenges you feel like you're going to personally face when it comes to this? Very, very broad questions, right? I didn't ask any specifics about the games. I asked more about the professional player mindset of what they're going through before a game starts, because you don't really have to know the game to ask those kind of because it's kind of relatable. It's like they're getting ready for a certain situation. I just want to know how they prep, honestly. So I don't ever ask certain scenarios about the game until after I've seen them perform, and then I could be like, all right, well, now I have better questions to see or to go off of after I've seen how the game works and how they're performing, right? That's happened a couple times with Shadowverse, because it was like a deck I was unfamiliar with, but then I saw a person lose. So afterwards in an interview, I went to that player. I said, I noticed that there were a few things that kind of were out of your control. Can you at least talk to us a little bit about what could have been done differently? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm spinning it around so that it's not necessarily showing my my green side of not knowing the game, but it's still catering to the audience that are both diehard fans and fans of the game in general, I should say, and then fans of the person as well. So it's not like anything too specific. It's still very, very broad in the beginning, and then depending on how they do, then I get very, very specific, right?
Right. And so I actually have a little bit of a follow-up, more of your personal opinion on this. So I've seen some scattered discussion about adding more interviews of players in at fighting games tournaments, either like before or after their matches.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you think or that you would be in favor of? Or should we kind of keep respecting players either they just finished a game and they lost or are trying to get in the zone before a match?
I think interviews prior to the gameplay is something I would be behind, honestly. But also it depends on the player. If they need time to prep beforehand, then we have to respect those decisions. But with all things like considered, say they have like their prep done in the beginning, I say I'm all for the interviews because I want to know what they have in their mind, like going into the matchups. We're obviously not going to talk about the strategy. But when it comes to after the gameplay, I'm only interviewing the winner, man. There's no way I'm gonna grab the guy who just lost his set in like probably the most heartbreaking fashion. You never know, right? Be like, hey man, come on over real quick. I got a question for you, bud. I know you just lost. Listen, that stuff sucked. I get it, but tell me about it. Relive it for me real quick. That's asinine to me. I'm not gonna do that. Interviews are great, but pick and choose your spots with respect, with the respect of the players, and what they're. Just be considerate, you know. Just be considerate of what they're going through.
Right. No, I agree with you. I just wanted to bring the point up, but I think it just kind of stems from what we'll kind of get into in our next topic in traditional sports, where players don't have a choice. They lose the game and get on the booth. You're talking to the press.
Oh yeah. I've definitely seen that where they can't even like cut the interviews, but they give very like short answers, like yes or no. Especially if it's like a yes or no question, they'll give very, very short answers. But I know that what's weird about that, like some of these players they're obviously like in a sense like influencers, right? They have a lot of eyes on them. What they say carries weight. So they can't have this kind of demeanor of like, man, talk about this right now and whatever. You can see it on their face and their body language, but they still give like decent answers. Like, they just played better than us today. We weren't really well prepared for what they had on defense. I just feel like there's plenty more chances to get at them. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll have that weird kind of like look to them where they're just dead inside. Like, man, I don't want. But that's a really tough question. That's a tough follow up question because like I don't know how I feel about it. I still think you should give them their space. I think winner interviews are the way to go. But if you do like a loser interview, maybe save it for the press conference. I guess not necessarily right when the moment happens. I say give them space.
Right, and I think part of it's a culture thing too. Like that's just something that those players have had to deal with, and so they
Mhm,
don't. They just deal with it, I guess.
mhm.
There's not really an option for them, and some of them it's in their contracts. So
Oh no, I was just about to say some are getting paid to do that. But I would imagine they get fined too if they didn't because it's like a TV slot. You know what I'm time of the production where they have to do an interview. Um, I don't know what that's like for other esports though, in terms of like the League of Legends scene. Because I've seen Avi like host a lot of like LCS stuff, but she interviews a lot of the winners. I don't really recall too many interviews with a losing team and seeing that happen. Have you ever seen that happen?
no, because when I kind of first got started watching esports stuff, League was definitely the big one for me, and I
Mhm.
don't really think they've ever focused on the losers. Maybe very rarely if they know that
Yeah,
there's a player that is good with it, but most of the time they go to the winner because it's more exciting, honestly. Because
yeah,
the winner's going to have more energy. They're either going to be very relieved or they're going to be very excited.
yeah. I totally agree with you on that. That's why I've never really looked. I was dabbling. I got stuck in the YouTube vortex the other night. I was looking at the top 10 like hype esports moments or the top 10 like BM, like watching this and just watching them go through like these lists and lists of like esports moments. And there's not one time where I saw an interview with a losing team or a losing player. So it makes sense. Like it makes sense to just, go off of that energy and getting like more hype interviews off of that rather than going with the person who just lost probably the game of their life. Right.
Yeah.
So,
No, I definitely think avoiding the losers, at least giving them some time, is a good idea.
yes. Yes,
So
absolutely.
kind of continuing on, both of us have spent some time working in the traditional sports world as well.
Yes.
Me in collegiate sports with my school. And do you just want to give like a brief overview of kind of your experiences?
Well, actually, I want to know what you do for some of your collegiate sports too, because I know you told me a little bit of, but I wanted to hear it again. Actually, 'cause I wanted to make sure uh, what it is you do for them exactly. But of course, I'm going to give my answer. But I wanted to
Right.
hear it. I
Yeah. So I was a marketing intern for a year with
mhm,
my school's athletics department, Iowa
mhm.
State. And so I was put in charge of two of the sports, soccer and softball, and then
Okay,
also had to help out with football and men's basketball. So we
sick,
handled all of the production and stuff at events, so like the music, on-field promotions, whatever else, like doing special senior night stuff or doing
cool,
sponsored giveaways, whatever at the game.
very cool.
So
Gotcha.
I kind of handled all of that. And then we didn't help as much as football because that's a much larger event with college
Yes,
football and the stadium. I did get a help at a college game day, which was a very cool experience working with ESPN.
that's sick.
Right. Yeah, it was a long day. I think I started at 3 in the morning.
Gee,
So
I definitely feel on that. Yeah.
so yeah, that's mostly what I did. It's a lot of marketing
Okay.
and production stuff.
I see you. I see you. When it came to sports, I worked in the professional level of sports, mostly for the NBA, NHL, WNBA. Um, but it was never to that degree. I was actually just a security guard. I worked as a red coat for a good like 4 years, I think, just about 4 years. It was pretty much how I got by through like college and saving up money for like competing in tournaments and whatnot. But it was like a gradual system where I worked from doing the magnetometers at the door, making sure everything goes smoothly, people are coming into the venue, no funny business, to the point where I was working on the event level and working directly into the hallways of the locker rooms and interacting with the coaches, staffs, and players. I did that for a good amount of years, and it was an interesting experience too, because I would also work on the courts or on the ice, not on the ice per se, but on the bench when it comes to like the hockey events for Staples Center, to be specific. I worked at Staples Center, and there are a few moments where I got to do. I don't know if you guys in the chat or Tanner yourself, when you watch a game, a Laker game, Clipper game, there are those guys in the red coats that show up on the court and they have like this formation. I was one of those guys for a very, very, very long time, and we would never be able to watch the game. We'd always have to be like we have to have in our the game. But if we get caught turning this way, your ass is off the bench. Like, yo, you're going back upstairs, bud. But we would watch like the players. We would like be in line with the players, watch the crowds. But if you're in the hallways, you interacted with more of like the coaches and the staff to whatever they really needed. Not like an assistant, but in like security means like, hey, open up these doors. We're gonna have the players coming in. Open up these doors. We're gonna have reporters in a bit. Check credentials, whatever. That kind of interaction with sports, for the most part. So that's what I did for about like 4 years at Staples Center, was high-end security, I guess.
Well, I think that's actually something people don't really realize. When you work in sports, you spend very little time actually watching the games when you're working.
Oh, yeah. That sucks. As a Laker fan, that sucked a lot.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I was really interested in on your perspective was the differences between how like people interacted with the players and just kind of the atmosphere at traditional sporting events compared to esports.
Man, people are crazy up in these sporting arenas, man. The whole different kind of crazy. All jokes aside, though, the energy when it comes to professional sporting events is some of the most intense feelings ever. Like, I would get there early, obviously, and see the players warming up. The seats haven't even been filled yet. It's just an empty arena. But as soon as like the game starts, you feel the pressure. Even as a security guard, it's like, dude, I got to do my best because there's so many people. I have to keep an eye out, man. I got to make sure none of these crazy folk try to get up from the stands up into the court, right? There's just this weird, immense pressure of everybody, like not even watching you, but just eyes towards you, man. It's a weird feeling. You're stepping out to the arena. It's like, yeah, like I'm about to go to work, kind of thing. It feels very, very strange. It's kind of intimidating, but it's also a feeling that's like you're about to witness something great every single time, even if it's like a preseason game or something, like not even like a playoff game. It's like you're about to witness some of the best athletes duke it out on stage, and there's something about that kind of presence in mind to really kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. As a professional speaker, this is weird. It's just weird. Like, it keeps you grounded. It's like, yo, this is really, really cool. Like to watch professionals do this. And then you compare it to something like Evo, and it's a similar feeling. Like when I was just talking to you about this earlier, literally before we went live. There's something about walking into like the Mandalay Bay and watching the finals or getting ready to watch the finals, and you see everybody there. You walk into it like, dude, I'm probably one of the greatest instances of fighting game moments, like one of the greatest fighting game moments potentially, right? I get to watch the top 8 of any fighting game, really. It's so captivating, right? I'm not even like a player for majority of those games. Like, what, let's say last year, Granblue wasn't out. Street Fighter 5 was the only game I kind of dabbled with that in like Eunice. I would sit there and watch the other top 8 because there's just something so like attractive about it. It's just compelling. It just forces you to stay. It's like, dude, you don't know what's going on in this game. Watching these top players at this stage with so much on the line, it's just like, dude, this energy is it's addicting. It's like you want to stay for it. It's crazy.
No, yeah, I definitely. Well, on both sides, honestly, the traditional sports and esports, I can 100% agree that energy is just unbelievable. I can remember
Mm,
the day that college game day was here at our school. I showed up to
mm,
work 3 in the morning, not a single person in the stadium. It was just me, at least in the actual arena, and the sun wasn't up and everything. And 8 hours before kickoff, and I could just feel like the momentum already building, and there wasn't a person around.
hmm.
And then
Yeah.
on
They
the
put
other
this weird
side,
scent in the air, man. They're
uh
like,
huh,
yeah, breathe it in.
uh huh, I was not tired. 3 in the morning, would not have been able to go to sleep. But then on the esports side, the first event I actually went to was League of Legends for
Mm,
the 2016 World Championship. I went to
right.
Chicago for the quarterfinals game,
Okay.
and that was just such a cool. That was my first experience, and only having been to Midwestern sporting events for a while, it was such a different atmosphere that I was hooked. I was hooked immediately. Like the energy and the excitement that everyone had. The game was like a 3-0 sweep. It was not even close, and people still got super hyped. It was so much fun.
That's what's up. There's got to be a fan of somebody in that arena. Of course, someone's gonna get hype, right?
Oh yeah, it's just I think that excitement of competition is so contagious and so attracting to people.
Yeah, I agree. Because you never get to really. It's out of the ordinary. You're seeing you're seeing a sport or something that interests you to that degree at probably the best level or the highest level, right? That just attracts people. It's like I want to see how it's done by the pros, and it's kind of like influential. It's like, yo, I feel like I can do this. And then when it comes down to them actually doing it, it's like, damn, this stuff is hard.
For sure. And I think you talked about like Evo specifically. That whole Sunday of Evo is definitely something that like regardless of if you're a fighting games fan or not, if you're into esports, you need to go to Evo Sunday at least once. There's
Yes.
so many games, there's so many announcements that people get excited for. I remember this last year, I was sitting behind you and Sajam and Range when the Guilty Gear trailer came on, and you guys lost it. And I was like, I think I need to play this game now.
Yeah. That was uh that was definitely like Steven Ringe. I felt like the middle child at that point because they were like grabbing me. I was just like, oh, here we go. Time to brace myself. But I get it. I get the hype around it, and it's just so cool. Like it's cool to see, trailers for any game or like announcements for any game is really really sick. As long as you enjoy the game, right? Like it's like you're getting a new version or extra content. Like that's pretty cool. Some games don't even get that on a regular basis. We get it almost like twice a year or minimum, right? The way things are fleshing out. So I get it.
Right. No, yeah. And I mean, some fighting games they'll have updates and we'll have season passes every year, but we'll go years
Mm,
between each major title update. So I
mhm,
think that's such a big thing, which kind of helps with fighting games in particular from the esports side that no other real esports or traditional sports have. They don't get that excitement of learning new characters constantly and learning new game updates. Like MOBAs get new
mhm,
characters, but it doesn't take, you know, weeks for them to figure out each different interaction, each how each move will work and how the character will
mhm,
be in the tournament scene.
mhm,
I think it's just something that fighting games is very unique. Like we're constantly having updated games, updated patches, new characters that can completely shake up the tournament scene.
yes, Leroy.
Leroy, six Leroys in top 8. Oh no.
Just to name a few.
just just a,
A little bit. A little bit.
oh no.
Oh no.
I think that's exactly what I said when they finalized top 8. 6 leaders, just oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, I think that was the sigh heard around the world too. The players are so hyped too. They're like, yeah, I made top 8. Like I'm not taking away from them, but at the same time, it's like, damn, something's in the water if you see this kind of result. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen something like that since like the Dark Ages of Street Fighter or Dark Ages of fighting games, like where games wouldn't get patched out. You get what you get really, and then like every top 8 would be like the same characters. Like for Third Strike, it'd be like 4 Yuns, or no, 4 Chuns, 2 Yuns, 2 Kens or something, but it's primarily like Chun Li, Ken, Yun. You know what I'm saying? So I haven't seen that in a long, very, very long time.
Right. And the funny thing was, it was still super exciting. It was still a blast to watch that tournament, even though
Yeah.
it was, for the most part, the same character fighting each other constantly.
To be fair, Tekken is probably the best fighting game to watch. If I'm being honest, it's aesthetically pleasing. The lore behind the players as well is very like deep rooted in Tekken legacy as well, because Tekken is just such a long-standing franchise. And then there's so much new blood that's really kind of like stirring the pot too. So that's very interesting putting it all together. Like the game's super fun to watch. There's certain players getting blown up by new guys. That in itself is entertaining because it also shows the fact that new people can do just as good as the people on stage. Like they could be seeing themselves up on that stage.
Right. And I think, which is another great benefit of having games that constantly come out or are constantly being updated, is every time a new game comes out or every time a series gets a new installment, we add to the player base. And some new player gets brought in. So I think that actually just brings another question to my mind just now. You talked about player storylines and how important those are. How do you view like focusing on player storylines when you're commentating compared to just like the matchup and the characters and what's going on?
Well, like Professor Oak said in Pokemon Red and Blue, there's a time and place for everything. Your bike inside a building. Honestly, when it comes to like talking about the player lore, going into the matchup, that is the preface to the actual match. There's always like a certain structure when it comes to commentaries. Like we want to talk about, if we can, we'll talk about the upcoming players going head to head, the lore behind it, filling in the players with a brief synopsis of what's been happening in the tour. Player X lost to player Y in a heartbreaking set at Evo. But player X has been going on a rampage events afterwards, and they finally meet here again at Capcom Cup. I wonder what player Y has been doing because he's been taking a break. He's been eating tons of Korean barbecue, but he still looks as strong as ever, seeing as he's in this position right now here at Capcom. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's talk about the matchup. Boom! It's a transition from you're talking about. It's like if you ever see like a UFC, they would play the trailer of both players or whatever. They're talking about the stories, what they did to get here. Then they have like Joe Rogan talking with the other commentators about what's about to happen with their record if they go forward with their fight, what's going to happen between these two, like if there's like bad blood. And then it comes down to the actual match itself, and they're just talking about the match. Like there's like, always like that kind of structure. And then afterwards, that's when you kind of briefly touch up on the story again. It's like, oh, it's been a long time coming, but player X finally gets his revenge. Player Y shouldn't have been eating all that bulgogi. It really cut into his diet and his mentality. So, he's going to be sending his ass home, stuff like that. Just having the structure, the time and place for everything, and understanding when to utilize certain knowledge and when to cut to the action so that you're not taking away from the viewer's experience.
Right. And yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And especially as we add new players every year, like I think if you would have told people even a year or 2 years ago that by the end of 2019, Pakistan would be one of the leading regions in Tekken 7, people would have been like, I've never even heard of a player from Pakistan. I don't know what you're talking about. And now we have Arslan Ash winning Esports Player of the Year.
Hell yeah.
And
well deserved.
GG signing multiple players from Pakistan, and now they were able to travel, and they forced everyone to step up to that next level, which was super cool. So I think we have hit everything, and we're out of time at this point.
Are you kidding me? I felt
Yeah.
like we just started.
We've been going for, we've almost hit an
7 o'clock?
hour.
No, all right.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna do a bonus here. We're gonna extend it by another hour, full streamer hours. No, I'm kidding. I'm not the guy leading the show.
Hey man, if you got something else, we could talk about it.
Play Marvel 2. It's a good game. Bro, I've been stuck on Marvel 2 because of Brian F. You tell your guy Brian F. He's started another epidemic, and it's not, staying quarantined. He started the Iron Man Infinite. Him and Sajam, by the way. I don't know if you guys have been, for those in the chat that have been tuning into all the stuff on social media for fighting games, but this Iron Man Infinite thing, everybody's got their arms up and about it.
Light punch.
Light punch. It's addicting, man. Trying to do it and watching other people do it and fail miserably is hilarious. I fail miserably in that game trying to do it as well, but it's just, there's something about it. Something about that game that's just like, I see a cool combo, I want to do it, especially in Marvel. Dude, there's 3.5 hours trying to do the Magneto Romfinite.
Oh my
and I
gosh.
still couldn't get it. But it didn't feel like 3 hours. In fact, I had to leave for dinner that same evening, and I was like, I don't want to go. I want to keep doing this. It was so bad. I just wanted to keep pressing buttons. And I did that afterwards. After I came back, I went into a Discord call with like Sajam and them. And I was going through it. I finally actually killed a full character doing the Romfinite for the first time ever in 10 years.
Hey, there we go.
20 years, because the game's up for 20 years.
Oh,
yeah. My first time actually landing the Romfinite. And it's like, close that chapter. I'm so happy.
We're gonna bring Marvel back because of that. Brian and Sajam bringing Marvel back.
Yeah, well, dude. I had a great idea about that too, but we'll talk about that another time.
I think that's actually like really important because right now we don't have tournaments. So with people making content like that, like unique content and unique stuff that gets people engaged, I think that's a lot of what we need in fighting games to help fill that gap.
Oh, absolutely. Man, now is a great time to be a streamer. Everybody's been saying, what else are we going to do, man? Like, this is fine. Me and TCC were talking about this the other day. We were meant for this quarantine. All we do is stay home, play video games, watch anime, and chill out. Like, this is fine. It's fine for me. Besides, like, not being able to eat as much, or at least go out to eat. I mean, they still do takeout, You'll be all right. You just got to find a game to play. Got to find a streamer to watch. Shit, just chill. Practice social distancing, okay?
Yeah. Yes. Wash your hands. Everyone, wash your hands. Social distance.
Don't touch your eyes. Don't touch your mouth. I gotta wash my hands after this. Actually, I kept like rubbing my nose. Damn allergies. I'm not. I swear. I drink Corona, but I don't have the virus.
There's the difference. It's important.
Dude, all that stuff is 50% off. Well, these guys are crazy. I don't know. It's crazy times. But I do appreciate you having me on the show too, and putting out content like that. I know this is the second episode, and this is relatively new, but it's good to see EQNX stepping up in terms of content creation, putting players on the map as well as streamers. I was watching Anne not too long ago. I was watching her play. I forgot what MMO it was, but I was like, oh, you guys have a full-on roster over at EQNX.
Yeah, BDO, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Black Desert Online, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's lots of stuff going on. We always got something in the works.
Good. So that's very, very cool.
Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on the
internet? I'm very, very easy to find. At Vicious FGC on all social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter. I do not have a Facebook. Twitch. And that's pretty much it. You can also find that name on multiple fighting games, as well as Call of Duty, because I've been playing a ton of that lately, and it's ruined my sleep schedule.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's kind of hit me too. My friends are like, "Oh, you want to play around?" Nope. All right, get on. And then I'm up till 3 a.m.
Bro, I I started playing. So I was doing like ROM Finits till like 2 a.m. and I was playing with like Hanzo Gonzo and Elder, two folks over at the D&D show that we do with Sajam. But we also just like hang out and play games with each other on a pretty daily basis, like with that entire group, right? And dude, I kid you not, we played like a handful of games and it was already like 4 a.m. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
you have got to be kidding me. And then I was just like, I wasn't satisfied. I kind of want to play a little bit more. I was like, let me play like 2 more games. It ended up being like 8 a.m., 8:30. I
Yep.
went to sleep at like, it was so stupid.
Yeah,
It
that
was so
sounds about right.
true degen hours, bro.
Yeah. If you guys aren't watching Magic Pixel, make sure that you're watching Magic Pixel. It's so much fun.
Yeah, we're so dumb. We're such a dumb group of individuals that we shouldn't even be playing as a cohesive unit in D&D. If there was like a one shot where we all met up with each other and started battling, that would make sense, but never as a cohesive unit. We're so like, we're not even like-minded at all in any sense. Maybe in like commentary and fighting games, but as personalities and just like people in general, we have such weird ways of thinking, and it's so funny to see our DM try to put us all together. So I feel bad for Ringe because he's the mastermind behind everything and tries to like make all the stories mesh, because like that's the kind of responsibilities of like a DM to make the story kind of work while also challenging the adventures. But we make some of the dumbest decisions, man. It's so funny.
Yeah, but it makes it so much more entertaining.
Yeah, it sure does, man. I've played 2 different campaigns with them. It never finished in its entirety because I make bad decisions. But I've done one shots where we've actually survived. We did like a one-shot fighting game one where Santa G took over the world. I don't know if you ever watched like Futurama with like Robot Santa.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to like, you know, dominate the world. It's the same concept, right? G has like the world under his control. He actually defeats Shadaloo and like inherits the company, and now is just like wreaking havoc. I played as my character was I played Yun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I forgot who Sajam was playing, and Hanzo was in it too. It was really, really funny. Or Tanman was in it as well. I can't remember the full roster, but it was so silly. It was actually so silly.
Oh man. So yeah, check out Magic Pixel. Follow Vicious on all of his social media platforms, and follow Equinox for more updates on episode 3 of the EQNX Podcast.
Do you guys have your guests settled up in line for episode 3 already, or is that like hush hush, like don't?
That is to be determined.
Okay, damn. I tried to get information for you, chat. Also, if you're not following right now, I'm looking at the Equinox numbers, and I'm also looking at my numbers. If you guys aren't pressing follow, I'm watching you. I'm kidding. I'm gonna play Call of Duty soon. So.
All right. Thanks, Vicious. See you guys all later.
Thanks for having me. Hope you guys have a great one.